So every election cycle here in the US and in other countries around the world, people end up having a bit of an issue when it's time to cast their ballot, which is, well, they don't really like either option because usually in a voting system that's first past the post, which is one person votes for one candidate and that's it, uh, there's really only two viable options, no matter what. So people don't like that they're voting for who they consider to be the lesser evil. Sure, it's preferable to the alternative, but it still is, well, evil. They still do not like it. And this is a very, very common thing. You'll find this basically every election, but it's become more frequent, both in the US and also in other countries around the world, where, if you'll notice, world leaders' approval ratings worldwide have been kind of not good, which is definitely a concerning sign for democracy in general, but that's another conversation. People do not like their options typically, and they're not enthusiastic about who's going to win, even if they voted for them. That's becoming more and more common. And here's the thing, in the United States, the past three elections, both candidates were not ideal to voters. However, I'll say two things about lesser evil voting, and this is if, well, in other countries, they vote by popular vote, but if you're in the US and if you live in a swing state, if you have a lesser evil candidate, if you have someone who you know is your lesser evil, regardless of who it is, I think that logically speaking, you should go out and vote for that candidate solely because, well, you know that one is worse, and, why make things worse for yourself? Harm reduction, right? If you don't live in a swing state, then you're good. You don't really, honestly, I mean, still vote for down ballot or congressional races because those matter, but president wise, I completely get that. However, here's another thing about this. Um, the problem with complaining, and this happens every election cycle, people say, why is it that we're getting two bad candidates? Why are the parties giving us these bad options? And a frustrating thing about this is that, well, you see, here's the thing. Uh, the parties, uh, the candidates that the parties have, well, there was another election months and months before where they were chosen by voters of the party. These, of course, are called primary elections. In other countries, sometimes it's a round one, sometimes there's a lot of different ways about it, but there's always an initial process to select a candidate to represent the party. And, well, primary elections generally do not have many voters. They just don't. People, especially young people, well, young people are a hard group to get the vote in elections, understandably so, because they're probably more jaded from the lesser evilism. But voting in a primary election could actually put you in an election, in a general election case where you have a candidate you like. And, well, because voters who vote in primary elections are more so the hardcore partisan fans of their party no matter what, well, they're getting a candidate they like, but you're not getting a candidate you like. And this has just been the case for, well, a while now. Um, in 2020 and until July 21st, 2024, well, people did not like the fact that they had to vote for Donald Trump and Joe Biden. They didn't like the fact that those are their options because they were two old men, basically, who were they viewed them out of touch. Why are boomers going to represent the country for another 4 years? And people had that mentality, but, how many of those people went out and voted in the primaries? First of all, Joe Biden won the 2020 Democratic primary because a large swath of always voting boomer liberals went out to vote. Older voters went out to vote. Younger voters, they didn't go out to vote. They just didn't. And Biden won the primary because older voters went out and voted for him. It's a little bit different with Trump, I would say. I think that the thing about Trump is that he actually did manage to expand the Republican coalition. So for him, it's a little bit different because, well, not as many people viewed him as the lesser evil, but if you didn't like that he was the Republican nominee again, well, there was also a Republican primary, and did you go vote in that? If not, then, well, you know, this is, of course, not an issue that ends with them because you know for sure, I am really anticipating this in 2028. There's going to be a large amount of voters who are going to complain about whoever the Democrat and Republican voters are. So I guess the whole point of this is to say, primary elections exist. Um, you probably have a party you lean towards. Consider voting in those, and maybe you won't have an election where you're stuck with options you don't like, and you'll have a candidate you actually kind of like and want to vote for. That's you. We should really be doing that more. Primary elections, well, not I personally think because there is a set that primaries have, which is in many states it's only closed to voters affiliated with one party. I think primaries should be that party and independent voters can vote, but they can only vote in one primary. If you're an independent, you vote in that one primary and that one only. Overall, primary elections, I think that I think people should just vote in those more.